mean, I can keep doing what I'm doing forever, right? Like it's worked, I'm paying all my bills, things are fine, but I'm finding that the passion in dentistry and what I want to do and how am I going to be able to do that rather than just show up and work. And so that's probably where the business program helped me most, was saying like, there needs to be structure to it. You can't just dream and hope that it happens.
You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Johnson here with our podcast, Everyday Practices, with Reagan Robertson, my co-host. Reagan, how you doing?
I'm feeling invigorated today, Chadwick. Thank you for asking.
I love that. Feeling and invigorated. Those were both fun words on how to describe it. So Darren, Dr. Darren Webber, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today on our episode. Yeah. So just for the audience's sake, Darren and I recently did a class, a business class through Productive Dentist Academy, but that's how Darren and I met. So Darren, tell the audience a little about yourself.
Yeah, not an endodontist. I live in Utah. I was born and raised near Salt Lake in Sandy, Utah. Did my undergraduate at Utah State University, which is up in Logan. And then I did my dental school in Las Vegas at UNLV. Graduated in 2008 and then in practice 12 years, general dentistry. And yeah, it's good. Love it.
Something that was really interesting, Darren, is as I participated in this program and got to know you a little bit, is you stuck out to me because you ask really good questions. And I know it's kind of a hallmark of a leader to ask really thought-provoking questions. And I saw you searching for new answers and searching for different ways to think and do things. And I saw Dr. Bruce Baird this morning and Dr. Mark Costas. Bruce was speaking in his group on his podcast today, and they were talking about being continual learners and always searching for different ways to do things and show up as a leader. And I think, one of the things that I find a lot in my decade in dentistry is that it is easy to come to a place of kind of complacency. So just kind of get into everything. You go through school, you get your own practice, and then it just runs. It just goes, and it's okay. And you've been in for 12 years now, in your practice. And I'm very curious. When was that? What was that moment for you? What kind of questions were you asking yourself? What prompted you to say, there might be a different direction for me to go, or our life just isn't quite what I want it to be? Where did that thought process begin for you?
Yeah, I think probably like most dentists, you go to dental school, you learn a ton of stuff in 4 years. Can be kind of overwhelming, just the amount of stuff you're learning clinically. I got out, I came into a very busy practice and just started working and felt like I was just kind of doing a craft, I got in here and was a technician basically and came in and did my treatments and it was just my job, like for probably 8 years, maybe 9 years of it. I was just showing up to work and it was fine. I liked it. I made good money, liked my patients, had great staff around me. So there wasn't anything that was like miserable about it. But I think I once I started really, I just felt so comfortable with the clinical side of things. It was almost like I was getting a little bit bored just with work.
You got the 7-year itch at 8 years, huh?
Yes, I was a little slow, but
well, good for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I started doing CE around implants and cosmetic dentistry stuff that I just hadn't really done anything with yet, and some of those courses were really enlightening to me as far as I'm pretty good at what I do. And I enjoy it. Why don't I do more of what I enjoy? And I think I didn't find my passion, I guess, in dentistry until maybe 3-4 years ago, when I really realized, like, I really like what I do. I have a really good job. and it can be so much more than just a technical thing that I show up and do. And I think I started to, value what I offer people and seeing the transformation in people's lives, whether that be through restorative dentistry, or the thing that most affected me, I think, is seeing how dentistry can change like people. Like you see them come in initial visits, and just whether it's like their sense of self-worth, or the way they carry themselves into the office, and then you give them their smile back and see their life change. And so I started to, I think, just see that dentistry could be so much more than just something I show up and do every day. And that, in dental school, you learn all the technical stuff. I don't think I was running it very smart as a business person. And so that's where PDA came in when I took that class. That was like, oh, like I could be doing things a lot better, that maybe would provide me opportunities to do the treatment that I'm really wanting to do, more rather than just show up and whatever comes in the door, we treat it.
Wow. So recognizing, and I think, by the way, Darren, I mean, I've said many times on this podcast, in fact, it's one of the things that makes me extremely passionate about doing what I do, just connecting doctors with business solutions, because I personally feel I try to put myself in that doctor's shoes. You went through school, and as an artist, I can tell you, I was a graphic artist for many, many years, and I honed my craft. I can't imagine trying to run a business on top of it. And not only that, I'm not talking like a boutique agency. I mean, a dental practice, so that you're a building manager, an HR manager. Now you're a marketing expert. Did you know that? You get to be that too. And you have to be all these different pieces and hats. And so it was a big shock to me to realize, oh, you have to go in and be a business owner on top of it. And I've heard that story many, many times. And so you got to this place. Where did you start looking? Did you go online? Did you look around for solutions? Did you try DIY? When you decided, okay, I want to do more of what I'm passionate about, and I need some business help?
Reagan, that was going to be my next question. That's a great question.
Because you and I are.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe like an important detail in my story is I came out of school to a very busy practice where I had a partner, and he'd been practicing for many, many years. And so I just was kind of here. We were 50-50 partners, but I was very much the minor. And so I didn't have a lot of pull as far as, like technology and things like that. It was very old school. And he passed away unexpectedly in 2013. So then all of a sudden I'm the business owner. And that was probably a big change. That was 5 years into my practice. And it took a couple of years of just, okay, like this is my baby now. Like, what am I going to do with it? And it took some time to we were so busy when he passed away, then it was just me. And so to kind of transition the practice. And then I think that's probably, a year or two after that, probably 7-8 years in, is when I started to say, okay, like this can be more than what it is. And I think obviously this year with COVID, that's how I found PDA really was I was listening to some podcast during shutdown, and they were talking about PDA. And so that's really, I don't know if COVID made me like desperate as far as like, where is the future going to be of dentistry? At that point, I think all of us were a little bit scared, and maybe part of the reason I liked the podcast, and I don't even remember who was on the podcast from PDA, but the positivity was so much better because there were so many podcasts out at that moment that were like, oh, this is what dentistry is going to be like forever now. We're never going to have waiting rooms. We're always going to be so scared, and PPE is going to be hard to come by. And I kind of refused to believe that. But it was disheartening to hear that over and over and over again from these like special, bigwig dentists. And so the positivity from PDA is probably what drew me most to that. And then realizing like, I've got to be ready in case, for the next COVID, like what business things do I need to have in mind? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for whatever comes next. Hopefully nothing, but we'll see.
But inevitably there's something. I mean, I don't even care if it's 10 years from now, but there's going to be another market crash. There's going to be another, election. There's going to be another, it's always something. And what matters to you or us or the world, I mean, that's, time will tell. But so what I think is interesting is you noticed that a lot of people were seeing it as a crisis. You saw it as an opportunity.
Yeah, I think it pushed me to a point where I think slowing down was the best part for me. Like I closed my office for about 7 weeks, and to be away from it, like probably helped me realize how much I enjoyed it and appreciated it, first of all. But it also was like, okay, like what do I enjoy? What am I missing? The first part of the shutdown was super stressful, and then it was really great just to be at home with my family, but I still miss dentistry. And so when I was like, hey, what am I missing? Like what parts of my job do I love? And then I was like, well, why, I'm the boss. Like, why don't I just make that my job? Instead of just showing up and whatever we do, why don't I try and focus on the things that I love? So that was probably one of the good kind of side effects of the COVID shutdown, was it gave me time to stop and think, where I wasn't busy every day just doing dentistry.
Well, because you were feeling like you were the one that had to do everything. If you're the point person. And something that I took out of what you were saying was that, like, you're saying that you should be able to enjoy your job. How do I focus on what's best for the patients and make this happen in spite of the crisis or through this crisis, so that way you could get on to greener pastures, right? Am I hearing that that's kind of where you were at the time? Like,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was like the shutdown gave me some perspective maybe on what the future could look like, just because I had so much time to sit and think about it, where I wasn't just at work working every day and worrying about employee issues or whatever. It was just the business side of things became so much more important, because we need to be ready for the what ifs.
mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about this shift in mindset. So I really appreciate that you shared, that we were, thank you, by the way, for whatever podcast you were listening to, with the positivity of it. I think that's fantastic. I too heard that the end is nigh. It was just like really a lot of gloom and doom, and it's not the most helpful of situations. So as you shifted your mindset and got started, how did you get on this process? So walk the listener, I guess walk them through this if they're sitting there now, because I know the second wave is obviously upon us, and I don't know how you would have felt if you hadn't done what you did, how you'd be feeling today if you hadn't done it, and take us from there.
And yeah, I think I just never, it never even crossed my mind to like have a business plan. I think I kind of fell into a good business model already, where things were productive and running pretty smooth, and I just kind of carried that on. But like, as far as looking down the road and like having a plan and goals and things like that, I think I always had kind of like a negative mindset in regards to like financial goals and numbers and things like that, because I prided myself so much, and I still do, on like just show up and treat the person. Like, it doesn't, like, I'm not going to set a goal of, I need to produce this much a day, or, I need to see this many people, this many new patients or whatever. Like, I've always felt like just show up and treat people good, like treat them like you would want to be treated, and they take care of me as I take care of them. And it's just never been an issue.
That's what you're told. You're told that it's always going to work its way out if you just take good care of people, right? I mean, it's this virtue that's almost taught within dentistry. Don't worry about the money. Do what you love, treat people right, and the money will what?
Follow. Hey, my dad said that. I'm not a dentist.
Listen, I think there's truth to it. No, I think there's truth to it. So it's not that there's wrong. It's like the book Good to Great. It's just like, perhaps just that is the good level, but then getting to great requires for there to be some planning. So along comes foundation. Darren, how did that class hit you from the beginning to end? Like, what was going through your mind on, what challenged you?
Well, it's still challenging for me. I've only been out of the class a couple of weeks, and I've kind of worked on a plan, and it's still, the mindset's hard to get out of, because goals are totally healthy, right? So I think shifting my mind away from like the numbers are bad, or like, don't worry about the numbers, like take care of the people. The thing that opened my mind probably, or my eyes the most through that program, was just like, goals are kind of necessary if you want to be successful, because you need to have kind of the end in sight. Like, you need to know where you're going. especially, in a world like this where things happen that are crazy, like COVID and shutdowns and things like that. You need to be ready for that stuff. And so when I started into the program, the thing that probably opened my eyes the most was just like the thought of having a plan, and like, how do you do that? And the fact that it's constantly being remade, like every 6 months you're remaking that plan for 2 years later. And for me, it was really hard when I sat down to think about, where do I want to be in 2 years? And also to like shoot for the stars was hard, because you don't want to set a goal that you're not going to make, right? So that was kind of a hurdle too, to be like, where do I want this thing to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And I know one of my big goals is to go fee for service. And that's scary, because that's a huge shift from what I've been doing for the last 12 years. And so I think dreaming big and going like, that's the way I want to go, like, I'm never going to get there if I don't have a plan. And so that was probably what the business program helped me with the most, was like, there's got to be a plan. I mean, I can keep doing what I'm doing forever, right? Like, it's worked, I'm paying all my bills, things are fine, but I'm finding that the passion in dentistry and what I want to do, and how am I going to be able to do that rather than just show up and work. And so that's probably where the business program helped me most, was saying like, there needs to be structure to it. You can't just dream and hope that it happens.
Wow. Bruce is very famous for saying, or I should say, I hang on his every word when he talks a lot about taking great care of patients. When I see him in practice, there's nothing that separates him between the relationship with the patient. He's so fatherly or grandfatherly or camaraderie with friendship. He's just right there in the moment with the patient. And he told me one time, he said, it is so hard to focus 100% on that patient in the chair if I am worried about the financial situation, if I'm worried about what tomorrow is going to bring. And I think that for him, without putting words in his mouth or his thoughts in his mouth, I think that probably started that process for him too. And I'm not personally driven by money. I'm driven by, have I impacted somebody positively today? Have I helped connect people with the solution that's right for them, whatever it may be? But also at the same time, I mean, you do, like you said, I think you have to have that kind of where am I headed? Where am I going? And understanding that it's not concrete. I have tried to do business plans over 12 years now. And I tell you, I hit the same hiccups if I start to go down that road of this is final, this is set in concrete, this is what I'm going to do for 2 years. I feel like that perfectionist mentality kind of gets in me. Is it like that for you, Chad?
Yes, that's why I took the class twice.
That's right, you did. Did you have you written out a plan?
I do. And Darren has seen it. I have an Excel file for it. This time I went
Share
all
me
out.
on it.
I spent some hours and hours on it actually. And because
it's impressive.
Well, when all is said and done, there's a lot of words on that page. So hopefully it looks impressive. But I have, if you
You're
notice,
slightly verbose, Chad.
Yeah. When you slide over to the columns that say, okay, so this is the 3-year plan. So therefore, who's in charge of it? What are you accomplishing by when? And man, when you put it to that, I don't even care if I only solve half of those. The fact is, if I solve half of those and then reassess in 3 months, okay, now how do I solve the other 50% that I didn't even get around to like beginning? Then, okay, we're now closer than if I would have just hoped that a year from now that we made progress. So Darren, you'll notice on those columns, I went from a 2-year to a 12-month to a 6-month to a 3-month. And then it was like actionable items. And I kept every one on a line. Okay, how do I accomplish that 2-year goal within 12 months? What do I want it to look like? And then within 6 months, 3 months. And then at the 3-month, I even took it a step further and said, okay, what actionable item now are we going to implement within the next, week or 2 or 3 to be able to get started on that? So that's why it was, and you should have seen after I got that solved, Regan, the cool thing was emails started flying out. And that's my communication method.
It is your communication method. You are very prompt with your emails.
So I started sending those emails out. So in an effort to start stirring up that, and Darren, we talked about this before, that it's not all on you.
Delegation is so hard for me that's part of why I get overwhelmed is it's not even micromanaging. It's that I'm like, I'll just do it. I don't want to bother them, or I'll just do it. Or by the time I explain to them what I'm thinking, like I could have just done it. And something that came to mind, and I don't know if this is relevant to what we were talking about, but a huge part, I think a shift in my mindset from the class was, as far as marketing and like authentic marketing was a huge thing that like kind of a light bulb that went off for me was like, this is my approach, right? Like, I just want to take care of people. And yeah, I've learned the numbers are important, but like conveying that message to patients is like my most powerful marketing, right? If I could get patients to see like into my heart, like I have their best interest at mind. And the fact that like money hasn't been a huge drive for me, like I have friends in dentistry that are like, man, their goal is to get the Porsche or to get, whatever. And that's not my mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if I could convey that to patients as an authentic marketing technique and be like, listen, like, how do I get you as a patient to see my heart that like, I just want to help you. And like money is, yeah, it's going to be a part of the discussion, right? Because your treatment's going to cost something. But like at the end of the day, whatever I do for you is going to be what I would do for my mother. It's going to be the best thing for you. And so that was probably one of the biggest takeaways for me from the course was like conveying to patients like who you really are, not who you want them to see you as, but like who you really are.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the way you say it, and it's genuine, you make me say, I will come be your patient. Well, it's interesting as I'm listening to this, Darren, I was really excited to kind of ask you about the fee for service angle, and you actually brought up marketing. You've just really laid out what I call a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. You can decide to go fee for service in one day. I'm sure you could send your letter to Delta or whoever your PPOs are like that. But what would happen from that? And it's been fascinating to watch Chad go through his fee for service journey and watch some other doctors go through their journey. And what I've learned is that it is a process. It is not a sit down and eat the pie in one sitting. I think, Chad, did it take you about 18 months fully to go the whole route, or was it a little bit shorter than that?
Yes, and we had even flirted with a few over the last few years. So I think ours has been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 18, yeah, something like that, to be able to, drop your smaller one and then maybe start dropping the next smaller one and then think about tackling your big one. That's tough.
And to me, that's the trigger point. So PPO, in essence, Darren, we know it does marketing for you to an extent. So you don't really have to think about it. So you're
taking the discount, so that way they bring you the patients. That, for listeners in the audience that are thinking, what do you mean by marketing or discount and stuff? That you're giving up 20% or 40% or dare we say more to be able to get more patients.
Mm-hmm. So right now is the time to be thinking about marketing your message, and I like it because when you say authentic, it's not about being salesy, but it is about educating and letting people know, one, that you exist, what your philosophy of care is. And I'm finding in fee for service marketing in particular, I mean, it's not like it was even 10 years ago. I mean, I think people are very disenfranchised by insurance. It's kind of a dirty 4-letter word at times. Or on the other hand, it's, I only use insurance, and I'm really firm with that. So I think there's a lot that goes into it internally marketing, like to your team, as well as external marketing. So all of this does definitely lay out, it's going to be at least a 2-year process. And if you focused on that alone, wow, I can't wait to invite you back in a year and in 2 years and see how far you've come on both of those fronts.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's scary because that's just all I've known, right? But I mean, the potential of getting there is exciting.
Well, we appreciate you letting us into your journey and being honest with us. I think a lot of dentists feel the way that you feel. And
I'm excited for you. Hey, if you had something, give us your authentic self. That puts a lot of pressure on you here. But okay, so we have listeners. They're on the treadmill. Tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. But what little advice would you give them that you've learned on your journey that would benefit them?
Yeah, I think at the risk of sounding like an old man, if I could get some advice, when I was 6 months out of school, it would be to like shoot for the stars then. Like, why wait, right? Because one of the benefits of being a dentist, you can do whatever you want. Like a general dentist, like you can focus on whatever you want, and you're your own boss. So I think for me, all of a sudden, 9 years, 8 years, whatever it was into my career, to all of a sudden be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. I wish I would have had that mindset earlier. And so I think showing up to work every day and not loving it it's not worth it. Like, there's so many things that you can do to create the space at your office that you want. And don't be afraid to dream big. Somebody, I don't remember who it was in the course, said, your dreams should be a little bit scary, maybe like it should almost make you nervous to say them. Like, this is what I want to do. Fee for service, that's scary to me, but I think getting there is going to be so rewarding. And so I guess, I don't know. I mean, my advice to people would be, don't just show up to work and work. Like, if you enjoy dentistry and that's what you love doing, then find your niche and run with it.
I'm speechless, Darren. That is awesome. That's awesome. I mean, really, thank you for sharing your BHAG. You really do. You inspired me in the class, and you inspire me now. It's been an interesting journey for myself. And I think every time I have seen success in my own life, it's been when I do something that I think is crazy. I think how on earth am I going to do this? I'm scared to do this, and I'm going to do it anyway. And you'll always know if I'm going towards something, because I'll tell my mom that I'm scared and I'm going to do it anyway. And it's only shot me further along on my path. So I just appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this in dentistry, and then sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys. I think, that was one of the funnest things with the PDA group, was like, it just blew me away. Like, you meet Victoria, Stacy, Reagan, like Chad, like each of you has like this little realm where you're like a specialist, like, like so much about this one thing, that it was so exciting to me, because I know in the class I talked about my study club, and you kind of get in this small world here, right? Like, in my small little study club world, and you bring up fee for service in this place, and they're like, good luck with that, and that's not what you want to hear. Those aren't the people you want to surround yourself with. And so it was sort of refreshing getting into PDA and being like, dang, like, these are people from all over the country, right? And each of you has like so many gifts, like in different areas. It's like the dream team of people to surround yourself with. So I was super grateful for the course. It became, honestly, when I went into it, I'm like, we'll see how this goes. And then by like week 5, 6, 7, I was like, dang, like, this is going to be over. So I need to like soak it all up. So yeah, it was great. I really appreciate and you too, especially. Like, that marketing meeting with you, Reagan, was like just so valuable for me. I went home and told my wife, I'm like, you would not believe, like, I got to sit and talk to like this group of people about like my marketing situation, and it was
Can you tell Reagan loves what she's doing?
Oh.
And you too, Chad. I mean, like, I talked to Chad on the phone, I don't know, a week or two ago, just about the fee for service thing, and like, why are you helping me, right? Like, I mean, you're just out of the goodness of your heart. I'm not paying you. You just are like, hey, yeah, like, you've been where I'm at, and you're where I'm kind of trying to get. And so
Great.
Really blessed just to know both of you and the whole PDA group, and just thanks for your help.
I feel the same way. That's why I'm just reciprocating it for others. Really. I mean,
That is you though, Chad. That's definitely Chad. He's ever since I
get my energy from it. I really do.
Yeah, you do like to help others. Yeah. So that's a big deal.
Well, wow. Darren, thanks for joining us again. Let's wrap up and unless this is in the informal part, but if we do ended up including this in there, everyone, thanks for
including me screaming. Darren, you inspire me. Yeah, why not?
Thanks everyone for joining us for Everyday Practices. See you next week.
Reagan Robertson here, co-host of Everyday Practices podcast. Rather than preparing for the holidays, are you finding yourself stuck worrying about the health of your business? Is it keeping you up at night? The truth is, you deserve a business that builds you up and doesn't run you down. You deserve something that's weatherproof, that can stand the next wave that's happening. Starting January 14th, we are kicking off another PDA Business Impact Foundations program. Go to www.productivedentist.com/foundations to claim your early bird special and use the code FUTURENOW, all one word, FUTURENOW, for a $700 scholarship.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.